Captain's Log Supplemental.
Hey Jeremy, you know those race cars you're busy building?
Yeah, I do.
You,
I
you,
got one
you
that I'm looking at every day.
you know what I don't see you working on?
You don't see me working on the amazing Sentinel system yet.
That's true. It would take all of 10 minutes for you to have one.
And it's very quick and easy to install.
It is. It is. And we could watch you when we are not at the race with you and see how you're doing. And then we can call you up when you get out of the car and tell you everything you did wrong.
And I love that because so many years I've been driving and not been able to see what I'm doing.
I know.
And now we can.
I know. You know what I'd like to do with the video? My most favorite thing is I take the video and I load it on YouTube and then I send it to my coach and say, look at 26 minutes and 17 seconds. Look at this one lap and tell me what I can do better. And every single time, you know what they say?
Everything.
Exactly. Precisely. So with the Sentinel system, you get instantaneous feedback plus useful feedback that unfortunately is accurate for my driving.
I think it's accurate for all of our driving.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's probably true. Yep. But you need to get one in your car, sir.
Yes, I do. And with the discount code that you're going to tell everybody, they can save 10% on this awesome system.
Yep. Trouble free. I haven't had an issue getting video every time we've gone out with the Sentinel. It's always worked. Can't say the same for some of the other systems we've tried. So I don't know. It's on the podcast notes down there. Don't do it while you're driving though. We like to have our listeners live. It's good.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
Vicki.
Miss Vicki, one of our faves.
Yeah.
He's back. He's going for, I believe this is the one. He gets his jacket for this 5th episode. Returning guest. Third episode? Fourth,
maybe.
At least 4. I don't know. Anyway, returning guest. Amateur aerodynamicist. Racer. Coach. And excellent blog, which blogs are still a thing. I don't care. You know, it's not all video, people. Welcome back to the podcast, Mario Korf.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Mario, I think you're, I don't know if it was the latest one because it was a few weeks back, but I think I wasn't even halfway done reading the article. And I'm like, you need to come on. And you're like, sure. So, and then we started talking, and I think we got onto a group chain with Khan. And it was like, well, I've got 2 things to talk about. Who wants what? And I'm like, I want this one. And that's why I got this one. And Khan got the other one, which is fine because Khan actually participated in some of your work with the aerodynamics. And, you know, I may be aerodynamic, but that's strictly because I eat too much. But we're here to talk about something that you've been using for a while with your coaching, but the article explained it in a way that even this little peon could figure it out. So let's talk about corner v min.
Yeah. So, as the article states, I will just go over some of the high points, but just being in data coaching and working with people, you see the same things over and over again. Like 90% of us have the same stuff to work on.
Yep.
And most people, a lot of that is either like driving the school line or over braking. Those are the 2 biggest things that you see.
Yep.
And so a lot of the times we were just trying to get people to sort of raise their V-mins. And I started looking at like the first thing I would do is this is all at Watkins Glen. I was working with the Niagara Region PCA Porsche Club, and I I needed a kind of a way to kind of just like I mean, instantly look at VMins. Once I'd load something up, I'd look at all the squiggly lines and I start to recognize some things. But then I started to actually write down the VMins, and that's before we started this episode, Vicky, Bill and I were talking about how he used to look at VMins while the race was going on and sort of relay that to the drivers. And it's the same thing Bill and I were doing is like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on here? How can I interpret this data in the most crude and easy way possible, but that is still very valuable? And it turns out VMIN is just so, so important. Um, the less you slow down, the faster you're going at the next corner. I mean, Ross just wrote a great article on that
Yeah.
days ago, like a
Yep.
couple days ago.
Yep.
And said it very succinctly. One of the things that I like to think about with VMIN is like, let's say there's a corner that has a 60-mile-an-hour VMIN. Like that's the ideal corner speed that you should go through it, right?
Hmm.
If you go through it at 58, and then it actually means you're not 2 miles an hour slower. You're kind of 4 miles an hour slower the way I see it. You went down to 58, but then you got to come back to 60 just to get back to where the other person was.
Right.
So like that delta that you lost is like for 4 mile an hours that you're just, well, you're never going to get back. And so keeping your momentum, keeping your min speed is just uber important.
And
Um,
it doesn't seem to vary greatly. Like within a pretty wide band of cars, the V-Min's kind of similar. Like tires make a difference for sure. Aero makes a difference for sure. But like if you go to a Lemons race or a Lucky Dog race, the V-Mins of those cars are fairly close.
Maybe, I don't know. That's one of the things where I'd say I'd have to look at the data, but I can definitely say, sure, tires matter a lot.
Yeah.
And any corner, over 60 starts to matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Um,
talking more the mid or slow speed turns.
yeah. But the slow seed corners, yeah, it's like sort of that concertina effect. They all kind of get closer together.
Hmm.
Um, But so I wrote this article about VMIN, and the story goes that I was working with Niagara PCA, and I couldn't get anybody to do data coaching with me. It's very difficult, even though it was free. And I brought all the, 6 AIM solos with me and all the attachments, and I could put it in their car and analyze their stuff when they come in. But I'd only get like maybe 2 students a day, which was surprising because people sometimes went 5 seconds faster. And they were like, how come I can't get any faster? And I'm like, well, come on in here. And then I'd find them 2 things. I'd send them back out. And they're like, oh my God, 4 seconds or whatever. And they were just blown away.
Right.
They're buying headers or they're buying tires. And suddenly they're just like, oh my God, I got 4 seconds. And 9 times out of 10, it was V-min, right? Over braking, which is
Yeah.
often the same thing. Um, but often the other things that happened in that process was one time this instructor came in and he didn't know much about data. And I said, yeah, let me look at your data. And he went out and came back and we looked at it. And I was like, what's up with your left-hand turns? He's like, what? I was like, yeah, your left-hand turns are terrible. Like you're, 3 or 4 miles an hour slower. And it
Hmm.
turned out to be a problem with his car, right?
Hmm.
So looking at data is also a great way of seeing what's going on with the car. He had an alignment issue and just it was like he wasn't figuring it out. But once you looked at the V-mins and you looked at this table, I'll tell you about the table in a minute, it was just obvious that his left-hand turns were tanked.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was this whole journey through like doing the data coaching and looking at lots of people's data um, got me to thinking about how I could get people to do it because they don't want to do it. Nobody wants to know how bad they suck. And I'll tell you a funny story because I was just at Watkins Glen this weekend instructing with mass tuning, and I did my VMins, right? I was like, I have to look at my VMins, and I'm sharing it with this small group of people um, that I sort of text with. This one guy, Greg Vandevert, who's an excellent coach, and he's like, "Oh, let me look at your data, and I'll help you." And I'm like, "Shit, I don't want him to know how bad I suck." Nobody, I mean, and Watkins Glen is not my favorite track. I'll just say
No.
it's my least favorite track. I think I've done 26 tracks right now, and I think I rank it 25th.
What's
Yeah.
the bottom?
I don't know, like it switches just like what's number one.
Yeah.
It's either pit race or New York safety track or, mid. It depends on like how I'm feeling that day. What's my favorite?
Yeah.
Thunder Hill 5 mile could
There's def
easily be,
there's
right?
definitely flavors, right? It's like ice cream.
Yeah.
Today I would like some Thunderhill. Two
Yeah.
scoops, please.
But yeah, I mean the reason for this is you just can't push it at Watkins Glen. There's three corners that have any suitable runoff, like turns 1, 8, and 10. And everything else is, smack into a wall and that's just, if you're trying to learn and you're trying to push your abilities and trying to do something that it's just not acceptable.
It
Like they
is
don't,
it is not Gingerman.
well, yeah, I've never been there, but I can tell you any track that doesn't allow motorcycles shouldn't allow cars either. Like that's just dumb. So, uh, anyway, moving on. Um, where was I? I was talking about
Somebody looking at your data.
oh, nobody wants to know they suck. Right. I didn't want to show this to Greg, but he's going to get me a couple of seconds. He's going to look at my data and be like, dude, you're, you're V-man. You don't know how to take the bus stop. Okay. And I'm like, yes, I don't. And I've got to work on turn 9 for sure.
Hmm.
So there's some things that I need to work on. And that's what everybody is. Nobody wants to know that they suck. So I thought, shit, this is what I have to do. I have to come up with a way that people can do data privately. They can just look at their data on their own and sort of self-coach themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, Garmin Catalyst is that too, right?
Yep.
Why is it you never have to show anybody, right? So I came up with a table, and all the table does is just have the Vmin values of every corner. And if you were to like look at your old videos or your AIM solo data or your Garmin data, it doesn't matter. You can circle those numbers on the this table for each corner. And if you're doing things really correctly, it'll show up as a horizontal line. Like all of those circles will be across the page in line with each other. And if you're doing things sort of poorly, like let's say you go through turn 1 really slowly, it shows up higher on the list. And you say, oh, I'm doing something wrong in turn 1.
But the table is per track.
Per track,
Yes.
and it's an expert data set. So this is largely one of the first things I'll do is I'll look at spec Miata racers, right?
Hmm.
Because they are generally the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
And if that whole game is V-Man, right?
Yep.
And they have no arrow. So I know when I look at their spec Miata, and I also know the values for like grip of the tires and all sorts of stuff. It's a very easy one to start with. And then I'll look at other cars and other pro racers and see how they're doing it. And it comes up with this kind of a relationship of like at Watkins Glen, I mean, the reason I came up with this table was because turns 7 and 8 were identical
Right.
in V-Min. So that's not true on every track, but that's what the catalyst that got me saying, oh, wait, if turn 7 and or 8 are the same and turn 9 is always 97% of either of those, what are the other corners? And I started looking at all the other corners and saying, oh, there's some multiple of turn 7 and 8.
Hmm.
And that's sort of how the table came to be. I think turn 1 is like 108% and turn 6 is 109% um, of that sort of base speed, which is whatever is higher of turn 7 and turn 8.
Mm.
Am I going too fast? How are we doing?
I
Mm-mm.
don't know, Miss
I'm
Vicki.
a
You
I'm
Yeah,
a
good?
we're
fast.
doing okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm a fast talker and I just like get carried away with excitement.
Well, I kind of know
Uh,
the answer, so I want Miss Vicki to be the judge. So.
okay. Well, Miss Vicky, the difficult ones are turn 5 and turn 10. So turn 5 is very fast and turn 10 is stupidly fast and it has camber.
Hmm.
So when I was looking at a spec Miata go through there or some reasonable car, I was like, oh shit, they're going through it, let's say 88 miles an hour. And then I'm looking at an IMSA car that goes through at 120. And I'm like, whoa. And it's the arrow, it's the downforce that goes like the faster you go, the more downforce you get. And it came to me this realization that you can't just have a V-min table at Watkins Glen. You actually needed three of them. One for a car that has no arrow,
Mm-hmm.
Spec Miata, Spec E46, but also surprisingly a lot of things like Porsches that you would be like, it's got arrow, it's got a wing. But if you look at the actual drag and lift values of, like a GT3, like not like a new one, but like an older GT3, or even look at some Lamborghinis or Ferraris, they're kind of just hovering around a coefficient lift of 0, like, or maybe negative zero point 0.1. They just don't have a lot of downforce.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's not really changing things. They're very neutral. And then you look at, something like a NASCAR stock car, which have maybe a coefficient of lift of like negative zero point 0.4. And then you look at real race cars, which is much higher than that. They go through at very different speeds.
Hmm.
So I had to factor that into this table of, so now there's three tables of this VMIN thing. And you kind of just say, okay, which one does my car fit into? And then you sort of circle all those numbers and it shows up as a horizontal line if you're doing things correctly.
And you may or may not excel like four of the turns, but you may just be totally blowing two of them, and that's just killing your entire lap.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so before we talk about that, so here's Vicki, if you read that Speed's Secrets randomly article, or maybe it's a Substack article from Ross Bentley. I think it just came out
I think it's a Substack he just put out.
yeah, a couple days ago.
Hmm.
Um, he mentioned something like after I wrote this article, I sent it to Ross and said, Ross, what do you think of this article? And he said, and what do you think of this VMIN table? And he was like, I think it's great. I'm doing this cornering masterclass and people should read that. And then he went and read, he wrote his own article, which is because he pointed out a couple of things that I hadn't thought of. Like I talked about VMIN being an important number,
Hmm.
53 miles an hour, but also like where that number occurs is very important. If that 53 miles an hour is at the
Right.
very exit of the corner, that's not nearly as good as if it's before the apex,
Hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And likewise, like what position the car is in, like
The angle.
yeah, the
Yeah.
yaw angle, or even just the angle. Like, yeah, are the wheels pointing straight ahead going down track, or are you still making that corner at
Hmm.
53 miles an hour? And then Ross was like, Mario, you also have to add in the fact that there's a duration of time at VMIN,
Yep.
which, yeah, I really didn't think about. But for sure, like, and it's the thing that probably I'm working on in my own driving most.
Hmm.
Like when I think about what am I working on, I'm really actually working on shortening my duration at VMIN. Anyway, so those things are super important about VMIN, more important than the number itself. But if you can get those things, the position of your car, the yaw angle, and your duration, then you're already using data and you don't need this table, right? This table was for people who don't use data, who are afraid of using data, who don't want to show their dirty laundry to anyone, and just
Hmm.
want to do it privately.
Yep.
And so that's why I came up with it. So, yes, of course, it's pretty crude. It's not as good as real data coaching, but if you're not doing anything else, you can do this, and it's super valuable.
Hmm.
So before we get to the table and everything, we were doing this. I'm I think it's related, but have you been to Road Atlanta?
Nope,
Okay.
but I know it from video games. Go ahead.
Okay. So what we were doing to figure out how we were doing through the back turn is it's like a two-part turn to this huge straightaway. It was turn six, turn seven, and then you were on for our car, it was an infinite straightaway. That we hit uh VMAX way early and just sat there and went doop, 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 and watched cars go ripping by. But anyway, we were trying to figure out as a team how early on the straightaway we would shift into our top gear. And that was our judge. Because during the turn, you got a lot of cars there. And you couldn't look down and say, oh, I'm at 52 or oh, I'm at 53. But if you pulled it off right, we could judge where we went into our top gear out of seven. And that was kind of indicative of how we did through six and seven, almost like a V min, but not. It was easier to maintain because you're just sitting on a straightaway going choke, 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 choke. You had time to look at the speedometer. So that was kind of what we were doing, just trying to see what approach would get us the earliest to that top gear.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar. It's
I mean, it's
one of
related.
the
It's not the same, but yeah.
yeah one of the things that I wrote about in that article is exercises that you can do to increase your VMIN. And what you're talking about there is kind of largely backing up the corner,
Hmm.
which is also backing up your VMIN. So the earlier that you go into turn seven, so you've come through turn six, you exit wide on the apron onto the left, you're
Yep.
hard on the brakes,
Yep.
you turn it in, but the earlier you get your turn braking and turning in that you can do it, the earlier you can do that, the earlier you can hit a late apex.
Hmm. Then you might
Uh,
be on the gas for a
yeah,
while.
yeah, but you could be on the gas a quarter of a second before
Yep.
you were, and then that's going to make it, then you're shifting into
Yep.
top gear,
Yep.
maybe a second and a half before you were,
Yeah, because
right?
V-min compounds, especially if there's a big long straightaway, right? If you're
Oh
two
yeah,
miles an hour different in your V-min, oh, it's only 2 miles an hour. But when you're at the end of, that infinite straightaway, you're talking zero because we were at V-max. But assuming you keep accelerating like mid-Ohio back straight, it could be 7, 8, 10 miles an hour, maybe more difference for two going into V-min.
absolutely. And there, I would say the position of V-min
Hmm.
matters much more than the actual V-min. So
Yeah.
that's one of those instances where like, so after I published that article, a couple people said, "Hey, could you do a V-min of this track or that track?" And I'm like, I could, and I've started a lot of them, but they don't work as well as Watkins Glen always. Especially when you have a long corner, like let's just say, you know, Mid Ohio.
E-hole at mid-Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one, like, or like you were saying, turn seven or Atlanta, both of those, like the position of V-min really matters.
Hmm.
Um, it's not just about the number.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about the number is that most people are just struggling with one or two turns, right?
Hmm.
They're over braking one turn, they're doing something wrong. Um, and
Maybe they
that's what,
don't even know they're overbraking too. I mean,
right,
that's all they know, you know.
right. Well, like I was saying, like last weekend I was at Watkins Glen, and I'm not particularly adept at Watkins Glen. I don't particularly like it, and I was just throwing away speed into the bus stop, like turn four. Like I'm
Hmm.
just in a loop. I thought I was driving it pretty well. Then I came home, assembled my V-mins on the table, and I'm like, oh man, you're 4 cells down. Like
Yeah.
you are, yeah, this is, and I was like, beating myself up about it. But um, yeah, you won't know, right? And that's another great thing about this table is it's not super accurate, but it's going to find your faults.
Yeah. The easy,
What
low
do I need to?
hanging stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm.
the low hanging fruit. Vicky, what do you got for me? Does this all make sense?
It really just kind of dawned on me. Like I've always wondered why some cars were just more able to manage a track at high speed. And it's like, oh yeah, I can do that with my car. And realizing just in this conversation that I really can't, because of the downforces. And I didn't realize how important that was in order to get around a corner very quickly. So
Tires more so at our level.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
but still, I mean, just being able to, if you have a front splitter and then you have you know, a wing on the back, that would definitely, along with car balance and along with tires to get things around the track a lot faster. But yeah, I just always kept really kind of looking at it, and I guess I really never thought about it before because I don't think we've ever reached um, the speeds or the skill level to kind of do that to hit a corner at like 90 miles an hour or whatever and just kind of hold on. It's interesting. It's very fascinating.
yeah. There's the aero component definitely helps. Like the faster you go, and certainly at Watkins Glen at turn 10, it's a huge, huge difference.
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
aero versus not aero. There's other corners like 7 and 8 where it really doesn't really matter. And actually, oddly, turn one doesn't matter. It should.
That surprised me when you wrote that.
I know. I thought it was an error, and I kept looking at it, kept going back through this data set I have, which is all these pro drivers, and everyone from Spec Miata drivers to GTT drivers to like lightweight, nimble cars, heavy fast cars, NASCAR, all the way up to like IMSA cars with tons of downforce. If you look at their V-mins, turn one isn't an aero corner, and I'm like, huh. Or just the way they drive it. They drive it in such a manner
Hmm.
that it's more effective to get the car turned early and drive off the corner than it is to sort of punch the arrow and take the corner speed. So yeah, that's an oddball corner. And there may be other ones like that. That's why it's hard. It was hard to make this data set. I mean, this V-min table, and why I've kind of shelved a lot of the other ones that I started. It gets once you get into the arrow and you start really looking at the data, you're like, wow, that's weird.
Racing's complicated. If we could make something with a single value that indicated all the different variables, that would be amazing and
Yeah.
surprising. And I'd be really surprised if it, one size fits all for everything. So, I could do my Ross impression. You ready? It depends.
It
Yeah,
depends.
it depends. But I will keep trying though. I think that there's at least what would you say, some merit in
Oh
trying
yeah,
to find that silver bullet or whatever it is that
yeah,
that does it.
yeah. I mean, and it may not be 100% gospel. It may just be. I
Yeah,
mean, to a point, it's at least helpful, right?
it
And
is at least helpful. I would love to look at your guys' V-mins. Like,
yeah,
I think I started one for pit race.
we have a ton of V-mins. Well, unfortunately, our V-mins may be very min, but we have tons and tons and tons of laps at pit
Well,
race.
I mean, what one of the wonderful things about this V-min analysis is that it doesn't matter what the weather's doing.
Yeah.
So if it's raining out, all your V-mins come down the same amount.
Hmm.
And so it doesn't. And also, if you have shitty tires or really good tires,
Hmm.
they should also come down by the same amount. And so you can compare like dislike things and say, oh, like my buddy who's got a spec Miata on SM 7.5s, you could look at his table and be like, okay, and here I am on, 540 treadwear all seasons, but there might be some corner that you're doing really well, and you'll see that in the V-mins. Oh,
Hmm.
let me talk about that for a second, because
Yep.
Bill, or a second ago, you were talking about maybe you have one or two V-mins that you need to work on, and that's what this table shows you. So you could have low V-mins or you can have high V-mins. So a low one is more common, and that is I broke too much, right? So usually I'm looking at data from intermediate drivers, high intermediate drivers, and they're still doing exactly what they were taught as novices: in slow, out fast. So they throw away speed like crazy because they're downshifting and braking hard. They're charging into the braking zone, looking at the 400 board, and then they're braking as hard as they can and downshifting and trying to get to that late apex line. All of those things going on in their head means they blew the corner already. There's just too many things going on. They're slowing
Hmm.
4 miles an hour too slow, right? They got on the gas, great. They got on early. They got all that braking done really well, threshold braking. But once they turned the car sharply at that speed, they scrubbed a lot of speed. They had a hard time managing it because they're accelerating, and that's lifting the front when they're losing
Yep.
traction. And they're oversteering, I mean, or understeering out to the corner and just managing a shitty exit. And that's so damn common, right? And we can fix that by various exercises. Let's go over the exercises later. But then every once in a while, you'll see somebody who, and then turn one's another great example of this. They're braking like crazy, but then they're trying to carry their speed through turn one. And
Hmm.
what ends
Hmm.
up happening is you'll look at their V-min, and early in the corner, it might be like 63, but late in the corner, when they're up on the the rumble strips, it's actually like 58. And you're like, oh, so your V-min, they got on the gas like way after the corner. They were at full throttle after the corner. And you're like, okay, those people have to do the exact opposite thing, and they have to worry. They have to like change everything so they can get on the gas before the exit. And that's really like sort of backing up the entire corner.
Yeah, because I've been with, not as many as you, because you've been doing this a lot longer than me, but um, I've been with students whose V-min would be theoretically with quotes around it, low because of the way they approach the car and the stability of the car going in, because the car is constantly nose diving in, bucking up, and then they're like, but I can't go any faster because the car, I didn't have any grip, but they're inducing the lack of grip by their lack of weight control and their lack of finesse with the controls, either feet or hands, and sometimes eyes. And they may be at the limit. They're at the limit, their limit, the way they're doing it, but they're not at the limit of the car.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's something that my twin brother Ian sees a lot when he teaches these driving classes. He has people come in and drive his simulators. He had a father-son
Hmm.
duo come in there, and he's a karting guy, and the dad is a real like enthusiast collector of cars or whatever. And again, apparently they were both terrible drivers. And these are the people that think that oversteer is faster, and they think that oversteer exit, like being able to mash the throttle and turn the car with the rear wheels at corner exit, is a driving strategy. And that's a drifting strategy. And
It, it,
it's
it is a strategy. I will give them that.
Yes.
and you're driving to the limit of the car for sure.
But you've induced a lower limit. Yes.
But that's fun. I mean, shit, that's fun,
Oh
but
yeah.
that's slow. I mean, all oversteer is done at the entry of the corner. And it's funny when I was on Facebook, for many years, and I recently am not on any social media, but I remember on Facebook, like this came up, like what's faster, oversteer or understeer, and someone was saying no decent driver in the world prefers understeer, and I'm
That's
like,
absolutely false.
no, I do. I
I know.
absolutely,
No, no, that's what I was saying. That's absolutely false. I know
yeah,
several of the best drivers we've ever had on this podcast prefer understeer.
yes, I want not a lot of understeer, but I want
No, some,
understeer.
a little bit.
Okay, so let me just go into that for 1 second. I know this is getting off on a tangent here, but
That's what
if
podcasts are, sir.
if you play Assetto Corsa or some simulation things like we do a Assetto Corsa, and we'll take a Miata and set it at 36 psi front and rear. Okay,
Hmm.
and then we'll take so we'll call that our base setting, 36 psi. Now, go to Brands Hatch with that Miata and run a bunch of laps. Okay, and then now take 2 psi out of the front and add it to the rear. Okay, so now you have 30 in the front. I mean, you have, excuse me, you have 34 in the front and you have
Hmm.
38 in the rear. Okay, and you keep doing that. So until you have like 28 at one side and whatever at the other side. So you're progressively making the car oversteer and oversteer more and more. You're giving the front more grip and less grip on the rear. Then do it the opposite way. Do the same thing. Start at 36 psi and now add start adding psi to the front and subtracting it to the rear. Now you're getting a car that understeers like crazy, right?
Hmm.
Do all of those laps and then come back and say, what were my lap times? Now there's a whole crowd of people that think oversteer is faster, and they'll be so disappointed to find out that their slowest laps are oversteer laps. This is 100% of people. This is not like, oh, really, Mario, you drive differently. No, no. And then they'll find out that the understeer laps, where they had the hardest tires in the front, the highest pressures and the lowest in the rear, is the fastest. And you're like, why? Why is understeer faster? And this is why. When you have a car that understeers, you can treat it like a bitch. You
Hmm.
can drive it like crazy. You can induce understeer. You can make it oversteer. Sorry, you can make it oversteer early in the corner. You mash on the brakes, you turn it on the brakes, trail brake into the corner, point it, get on the gas early, and you have all that 28 psi in the rear giving you grip, and you rock it out of the corner. You did
Hmm.
all of your steering early in the corner, and you did it on the brakes. You didn't do it with the wheels. If you have a car that oversteers, yes, you can get oversteer anytime you want, but you're fighting it the
Yep.
entire time and you can't get the car not to oversteer. In fact, you have to drive the car to force it to understeer. So you do all these little tricks like turning in early and then getting on the throttle like progressively to push the car into
Hmm.
a nose situation where you're inducing understeer, and it's a second and a half slower. So I love it when I hear these guys on Facebook or people I know, all these people who talk about oversteer is faster. I'm like, man, I wish I had a car that I could just like send them out and we had we have all seasons on one side and track rubber on the other side, and we just swap them around and say, this is the same tire front and back. You have the same amount of grip. Which one's going to be faster?
Yep.
It's understeer every fucking time.
Yep.
Yeah. Because you can treat the car, because you can make the car oversteer, right?
Yeah.
That's
It's
why it's faster.
and you can get to full throttle sooner.
Oh yes, that's the beauty of it. That's exactly right. You're on
Hmm.
throttle earlier, whereas the oversteer, you're just constantly trying to manage it.
It's wait, wait,
Right.
wait, 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 wait,
Yeah.
wait, wait, go.
That's the other thing about. Okay, so here we off on a tangent. A
Yeah.
lot of people will say, this is going back to aerodynamics now, um, that you should set up a car the same aero balance as its chassis balance. So your Civic has 66% of the weight on the front end or something, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
a third on the rear. So they would say you should put, 200 pounds of downforce on the front and 100 on the rear. And that's preserves the chassis balance, and that's how you should drive the car. And in my experience, that is 100% wrong. The car goes faster if you put it on the rear. And there's several reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with um, cars lose more downforce over the rear. They all have more lift on the rear anyway. But also, there's the static margin of the car, the distance between the center of gravity and the center of pressure. And when this is just like oversteer and understeer, the more you have, like a kite has a trailer, like a streamer on the end, like to stabilize a kite, usually often has like a tail on it, right? It's the same thing. The more pressure you have on the back of your car, wings, end plates, downforce, it stabilizes the car. It might make the car harder to turn, but it's more stable. So you can force a car to be unstable and then use the car's stability to correct it. But if your car is unstable all the time, good luck with that.
Hmm.
You're going to have a very hard time. Like when I see someone drive an unstable car, like Erica Till, I'm like, how the hell does he do that? Like that's
He,
like Mr.
he's
Magic Hands. Like
he's an alien.
I could never drive a car like that. And my hands, like you watch me drive, and you're like, God, that guy's got such slow hands. Like you know, I'm not trying to like force a car. I don't want to correct a car that's trying to kill me. I
Yeah.
want to take a car that is docile and treat it like my punching bag. I'm just like, I'm going to force this car into the corner and force it to do things. And then it's so stable, it corrects itself. So whether you're getting an understeer from chassis balance or from setup or from, rear biased aerodynamics, I think it's always faster. And I think you would see that in the V-min tables as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And for sure. So I think we've waxed poetically about something that people can use to
Yes.
see how they're doing, or at least assess how they're doing. But it would be a only partial episode if we didn't tell them ways that they could improve what they're doing. And that's either by some drills that you've come up with as well.
Yeah. My favorite drill is fourth gear, no brakes. That's what I learned at the Keith Code Superbike School at Sears Point in the rain. They had us on Kawasaki ZX 636s, and we had to drive the entire track in the rain in fourth gear without ever using the brakes. And I've translated that now to cars, and we do it usually in third gear, like because I'm
Right.
usually at Pineview. But as good as that drill is, and this is another one my brother does with his students, this third gear no brakes drill. As good as that is, it's not something you can practically do at most HPDEs. There's
Yep.
too much track. I mean, people doing other things, and it's rude to be like just holding people up that way. I think a really good drill to do at a DE is a no shifting drill. You can still use the brakes, but you're just gonna have to leave it in fourth gear the whole time.
Hmm.
Like at Watkins Glen, do the entire track in fourth gear. No shifting. Don't even think about it. And try and keep your V-mins and try and hit your marks. That is a really good one.
Hmm.
Um,
Vicky's a fan of the one gear higher drill.
yeah, it's similar.
Yeah.
Me
If
too.
we could just get her to stop doing it when it's in a race and just only do it for practice, that would be great. We're at
Yeah.
Thompson and she's like, I can't get into fifth. There's a problem. I'm like, why are you going to fifth?
Another one is the break to the apex drill. And this, again, it's not a great one to do in the middle of a DE, but I took this motorcycle class um, from Bill Sink at Evolve GT, and it was just fantastic. The entire class was really just trail braking a motorcycle. It wasn't called that, but it ended up being that. And there was one drill where they had a cone that showed you the apex in the corner, right? And you wanted to
Hmm.
brake to the apex. And every lap, they'd change the location of the cone.
Evil.
Evil people. And so you'd come in and you're braking, you're like, oh shit, it's all the way around the corner. And you would have to drag brakes all the way around to the corner. The next time it was short in the corner and you just had to brake there and turn. So that's a great the sort of break to the apex. Like if you have a place like a country club like where I go, Pineview, or some other place where there's empty track, you can do the third gear no brakes and the brake to the apex. Those kind of go hand in hand. But if you don't have that, yeah, I would say that the no shifting or a gear higher or two gears higher.
Yeah.
Why not? Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Are
those
you
are good drills. Yeah.
are you familiar with Ken Hill? I'm
Yeah.
assuming since you're a motorcycle guy, you know, you
Yeah.
might you
I quit motorcycling last year because I had a litany of surgeries that had nothing to do with motorcycle racing. But like, I was like, I just can't take another fall on this shoulder. And I was scheduled to go and do a 2-day thing with Ken Hill.
okay.
And I just had to be like, shit, because I was conversing with him. His son has an Elantra N, sort of.
Hmm.
It's kind of Hyundai buddies, and I sent him some of my data and other stuff, and we talked about stuff. I just vastly respect that dude.
Yeah, he's pretty impressive, and we've had him on a couple times. So I was thinking about it, getting ready for this episode, and he's got the concept of entry corners versus exit corners. You familiar?
I'm not.
Okay. So he breaks corners down into three types of corners. One is where it matters for entry, like maximize your entry and don't worry about the exit, which is some of the corners. More of the corners are exit corners where you maximize your exit speed and you don't really you give away the entry because it matters more what's after the corner than what's coming into the corner. And then there's some neutral corners. But I was just wondering if that might be one of the complicating factors for your V min table assessment because all corners were not made equally by on purpose. You know, it'd be pretty boring to go around a track that had the same turn four times, or pick a polygon, right?
Yeah, I think for sure that works in there. So we call those type one, type two, and type three, not exit, entry, and I mean types, whatever.
Balanced, I think, is the third
Yeah,
one for him. But
balanced. We call it type three. But it's the same thing. But like if the VMIN table is based on pro drivers doing
yeah,
it, but Watkins Glen doesn't really have an entry corner that I'm aware of. I mean, it's kind of if you said like the first part of the inner loop, I guess, is the entry corner.
hmm
Um, but 17 at pit race or like usually it's a kink.
yep,
Often to you know, sometimes it's corners you don't expect where you turn in early and just let it scrub to the outside.
hmm
Um, I'm trying to think. But I think that would already be baked into the table. So like if I was to like have Veman tables for, a
hmm
dozen racetracks, I'm not the one saying how it should be done. I'm looking at the pros and saying, how did
right,
you do it?
right.
And that would already be in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to piece it together because I know it works for certain corners and certain tracks. Because I've tried doing one for the big runs that we go to. Like most of the laps we do are pit race and NJMP. That's just due to
So NJ,
proximity.
yeah. Well, luckily NJP and Pit Race are two of the ones that I've started. So maybe I
Nice.
should get my ass together and finish those.
We can talk about it. We have a NJMP Thunderbolt in a month and a half, so we'll be
Uh,
there.
Let me step on that then. I'll see if I can get that one done. I mean, I love that track. I think it's the opposite of Watkins Glen in the sense that it's very safe. Like you can push your limits.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
couple. There's a couple that you got to manage and worry about, but the rest of them it's pretty much you're going for a ride. You're going to go bouncing in the grass, but they're not bad.
yeah, I mean, it's a fast track, right?
Mhm.
There's some really fast turns, but yeah, you're going to manage it. You're not going to hit a blue wall.
Mm-mm. Blue
Um,
bushes are bad.
you always see blue bushes, but dude, they're metal.
I know that's the joke.
Metal bushes. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
blue bushes are bad, just in general. If you have a bush and it's blue, don't run into it.
yeah.
It's a
I'm
bad
with
day.
you.
I think the scariest I've ever been was at Watkins Glen. It was early in our career. I think it was like second year we were there, and I didn't do my prep, so I didn't have the track in my head. And I'm going down towards one of the later turns, and I don't know if it's a right or a left, so I'm just driving straight down the middle, going, "Well, this is
Yo.
going to be fun." And I swear the track made me think, "Oh, it's a left," and I get over there ready for a left turn, and it's right, and I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be fun."
Yeah.
So
Watkins Glen is a little scary.
it is.
It can be. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely my bugaboo. I don't like it. Yeah.
It's not a it is not a entry level. Hey, let's go learn how to drive on the track.
No, it's not.
So a lot of our friends have written off pieces or the entire car. So
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, last time I was there, not this last weekend, but the time before that, yeah, just some McLaren just lost his oil and coolant in between 9 and 10. Started dropping at 9 and 10, and by the time it was in 11, it was all over the place. And I watched four cars in a row go full speed into turn 11 wall.
yeah,
Ugh.
All of them got all of them were in the wrecker.
yeah.
And none of those people had done anything wrong,
Nope.
you
It
know?
can't. It can.
And the flagger didn't see it until,
They were piling up.
yeah, they were just kablam, kablam, and it's super loud.
I think that I remember it was a Cooper that it was the instructor's Cooper that he was instructing his friend,
Yeah, it was.
and his friend drove it into the wall
Yeah, hard.
hard.
Like
Yeah.
the Mini Cooper was a mini Cooper by the time that thing was done.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So that was no fun. Well,
Mm-mm.
Speaking of accidents, I just saw some really cool accident data um, based on some. Uh, where do you think most of the accidents happen? Advanced, intermediate, or novice?
I would say intermediate,
Intermediate.
maybe the young advanced.
You'd think so, but the advanced and instructor group is more than the novice and the intermediate combined.
Really.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I've seen
I
some
thought,
instructors I wouldn't doubt, but that's a different story. We can talk about that in
yeah.
the OnlyFans version of this podcast.
oh,
I was surprised too, and it's 50% of those are corner exits. About a quarter are, yeah,
wow.
about a quarter are braking and corner entry. About a quarter of them are mid corner, and half of them. So it's probably four offs and spins at the corner exit,
They're
but
not waiting for their car to settle before they punch it.
or just punching it too early,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
yeah,
Worst accident I've ever seen is that corner exit.
yeah. Because I thought it was wild. I was like, because that what I was talking about that last time I was at Watkins Glen before this. I mean, that was the first accident of the day, but the advanced instructor run group didn't get a clean session the entire day. The very next session, someone stacked it in the S's. Then someone hit the wall in like 10. And then someone like it was like they got like 15 minutes all day, the
Wow.
advanced group. And I was like, wow. And then I saw that data and I was like, yeah, it tracks.
So listen, you know, if you ever go and you're doing your data analysis and you're only seeing 2 people per weekend, we can double that. You just give us a call.
Well, come up. I mean,
We'll be there.
yeah. Um, oh, I was going to say something, but I'm not. I'll let Ross say that.
Self edit.
Self edit. But Ross has that cornering masterclass coming up.
Yep.
Are you guys going to be there?
I believe I am scheduled to take it, but not be live because I have something going on at that time.
Oh, okay. I
So
get a lot out of his master classes.
I do.
think
They're great.
he's got that great whiteboard and shows the positions, and I think that also in his wife does a really good job of like calling questions and bringing those to him, so that there's like a real feeling of like community and asking questions and
Yeah.
getting to that stuff. I think it's his best stuff that he does is his master classes, and he does so many good things. But
Yeah.
I think those have like a high value quotient.
Yep. I like those, and I really like the track walks he does if they're available.
Yeah, I saw that, before I raced Watkins Glen in probably 2017 or something. I watched that one with him and Peter Krause,
Hmm.
and just had to go through all that. I still use some of the markers that they
Yep.
use on that video, and I'm like, oh yeah, stay to the right, stay to the right, boom.
Yep.
Yeah, those are really good, but I haven't looked at his other ones. It was almost too much information. It was so long.
Yeah, that was one thing I was talking to him about. It's like because I know Road Atlanta is like 2.5 hours, and VIR is similarly length. And I was saying it would be great to have like the 30-40 minute summary in there with the detailed one, because once you go through the detailed one, it'd be nice to have something you could get through that's kind of bite sized. And I think he was talking about doing that. I don't know if he's going to though.
Yeah. But
But,
cool.
I mean, we've done literally thousands of laps at pit race, and every time I go, I take a look at my lap notes and just make sure I'm not stupid, and then I get sick and don't get to go to the race. But that's a different story. But
Yeah.
Miss Vicki got to go, so
Mhm.
Well, what are y'all's? I said y'all's like Ben would say. What are y'all's?
Ben's here. Dominator Dawson. Dominator Dawson. I need to wait.
What are y'all favorite part of pit race? Like, if you're gonna like, what do you want? I mean, I love pit race, but Vicky? What is your favorite part of that track?
Favorite part of that track? Let's see. The S's. I enjoy the S's.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to
Um,
break it into the front half of the S's or second half of the S's, which is more your fun? By the way, I'm gonna break it up and
I
say the
would
second half is like where it goes up the hill, down, and then down the hill.
right.
Oh, all the way back there.
The
Okay.
other part of
Yeah.
the S's was we just exiting out of
The
that.
Wiggle 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I like all that area down there because
Mm,
if you hit it just right, you just kind of
Low.
yeah.
you fly through there, and there's a couple tricks that you can get to shave a couple points off and stuff. But yeah, they're usually my favorite. The straightaways, yeah. Right now we were racing a truck that had a changed rear end on it, so it and because it we were just test running it mostly, and because the front end wasn't balanced to the back end, it wouldn't let me grasp with that one wheel that was actually doing the turning. So it was like skipping on all the right hand turns as I was coming around. It was interesting. But
Mm,
yeah, I would have to say that. And for the most part, I do like the bowl. I do
yeah.
like the bowl. Like if you hit the bowl just right, you can just like fly right through that.
If you
If you hit it
don't,
wrong, if you hit it wrong, you're crawling up that hill like a tractor trailer.
chugga, 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 chugga,
That's
chugga.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say the bowl's way better. It seems way better in a rear wheel drive car than a front wheel drive car.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's punishing in a front wheel drive car. It's
Yeah.
just
I
Yeah, if
do
you
long
get
have
it,
that
uphill.
is true because when
Yeah.
we the race truck was a rear wheel drive and not to mention it had a lot of torque anyway, but it just it
Yeah.
I I packed it, not packed it, but like going up that hill, I had no problems. Like I was losing people going up the hill, and of course they catch me going down
Yeah.
that little tiny mini straight back there. Um, but it was kind of fun. It's like, oh, the race truck is just, zipping right along there.
What about you,
hmm
Bill? What's your
14 and 1, and then
hmm,
I like 3, 4.
I stuck at 3-4
Yeah, I didn't say I was
and
good at
one.
any of these. Those are the ones that
Yeah.
drive me crazy because those are the ones.
Yeah.
It's like if you golf, there's a hole that you know your eye looks at it. I got
Yeah.
this, I'm good. And then there's the other ones where it's like no matter what you do, you get done with the turn and you're like, nope, screwed it up again.
Yeah.
And those are the
That's a
ones
good,
that
that's yeah, for sure. 1-3-4 is my Achilles heel on that. I feel like I've got the entire track nailed, and every time I go through one, I'm like, I left something on the
left
table.
a ton on the table. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It starts right where the braking zone crests the hill. You
Yeah.
know, it's like if you get that right, you got a chance.
Yeah.
But if you get that right, something else happens, and then you end up looking and you're going around turn one and you're looking to your right, going, why is there 50 yards of track that I'm not using? You know, it's getting all of that right. The one is a challenge.
Here's a funny story since I'm going off on tangent again. But we were racing there. I think it was a Champ Car, and I had a couple of Spec Miata guys, and I had my teammate Alyssa Merrill. She's alien level, and we were all going through turn one and looking at the data later.
Hmm.
And these are pretty good drivers. I'm a pretty good driver, and I was like, we all thought we were nailing turn one, and she was 10 miles an hour faster. Her
Yeah.
V-min was
Hmm.
just to bring this back to V-min, 10 miles an hour. There was other places on the track where she was 1 or 2 miles an hour faster, but we all just realized that we had no idea how to drive turn one
It's hard. It's
after
it's
that. Yeah.
it's braking, entry, apex. You know, getting
Yeah.
all three of those right in that turn is not easy because it's kind of blindish, and then it opens up, and you're like, "Oh, look at all that turn!" And I
I
just didn't
know.
use any of it.
Near the flag station, you're like, what did I just do? You know what else is like that? Is like, I think it's turn three at Thompson. It's just that 90-degree left. You're
Hmm.
like, it's the simplest turn that you can never get right.
You're coming up on
Hmm.
Vicky's favorite turn in the world, I believe. I
Which
believe
is?
turn 4. She likes the U turn at Thompson.
5?
Oh
The
yeah.
5, yeah.
Which is, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the one where she parked it.
Oh, no, no, she doesn't like that one.
No, no, I don't like that one. No,
No, that parking
that's not
spot was
not
available,
great.
and she took it. And
Yeah.
there's a reason why there was no valet parking there, Miss Dear.
But 4 is
Yes.
a good turn. The hairpin 4 is a
Yeah,
fun place to pass.
yeah. She loves
Braking
that in the
zone.
truck. I think that's her
Yeah.
favorite. Is that still your
Hmm.
favorite?
Yeah, but that was my favorite till the truck changed. So
Until the truck changes. Well, you don't
it
know
did.
yet.
Yeah.
You'll see.
Yeah. We'll see.
I think we can dial the truck in. I think it's
Yeah.
a spring issue.
Well,
Yeah.
Oddly, Thompson's another one I started a V-min table on just because, I've done a 12-hour race there and a couple
Hmm.
Lemons races there, and I thought Thompson's one of those tracks I don't think is a great HBDE track. It's just not that much fun. It's
No,
mostly flat and a lot of just setup stuff, but it's a great racing track.
it
It's a
is.
super fun
Hmm.
track to race on. Um,
You can really screw people at Thompson if you know what you're doing, and they don't, and just crush them by seconds.
Yeah, especially
Especially
that last complex.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you're
Yep.
racing them and you put it where you need to be and put them where they don't want to be, then they're just a distant memory going down that front straight. It's like
Yeah.
where'd you go, buddy? Where were you? You were all sporty on the first part. Where'd you go, man?
Yeah. Well,
So
should we bring this back to the Veman table? Is there anything else that that I mean, everybody should just read the article. It's a very long article
it
on
is, but
how
it's worth it.
how it came about. It's a good story.
Yeah.
Or just click the link and get the VMin table for Watkins Glen. And eventually I'll have the, 6 or 7 more VMin tables that I started and I'll put those up on there.
Yeah.
And if there's something that you really want, maybe I'll do it. Like I had a lot of requests for VIR, but that's not an easy one to do.
Especially when there's 50 different VIRs. So
I was just going to do the grand or main,
yeah.
whatever it's called, but yeah, exactly.
What if a Latin major called you up and said, "Hey Mario, could you do me some VIR?"
I'd say, Ben, no, he knows that track well enough. You don't need
Yeah,
to.
he don't need to be like he looks at the speedometer anyway. He's like, I got people to pass. Why am I looking down in this car? Yeah.
Ben winds up in that story too. Like we had him as a teammate early
Hmm.
on in Lemons. He was out in California, and we were
Yep.
so lucky to hook up with him um, because he can drive a shitty car.
Yeah, you can.
Like,
Yeah.
like when the car was working, I had really close lap times to him. But when the car wasn't working,
He doesn't slow down.
I don't know how he does it. Like he could drive a 3-wheel jalopy
Hmm.
and just keep it on track.
Yep,
Yeah,
and he can. And we almost got him into one, but it broke, so he didn't get to. So he got to drive somebody else's real car. But we'll get him. It's all right.
yeah.
So, what's your schedule like for this year, sir? Are you focusing on coaching? Are you getting behind the wheel? Can we talk you into, doing some dumb decisions with us?
No, you probably can't. So here's what's going on with me this year. I'm
That's a
doing.
wise man, sir. If you're gonna listen to somebody with wisdom about racing, would you like to drive with us? No.
No, it's just a thing this year is like, so I quit Google last June and I just decided I didn't want to do software, work in AI and do all this other kind of shit. And I'm glad I didn't, but I don't have any money. So I haven't done, yeah. So I don't have like the same, like, silly software money that I used to. And so I'm doing only local track days. Like I've got 20 track days at Pineview just because I'm a member there. I can do 20 days there. And I can coach at Watkins Glen anytime I want. So between those two, I'll probably have, 30, 40 track days. I don't know. And it's just a lot of gas money that I have to come up with. But I really am trying to do a course at Pineview.
Mhm.
There's a neat little course that's like a instructional thing that's going to go on there. And I'm trying to make that as good as possible and just work on coaching and sort of private coaching and data coaching and things like that this year. So I don't want to do any racing or um, sort of dilute my focus because I'm trying to do that. And I've got this wind tunnel report that's coming on. So this is what the other podcast was, which is I've got the Miata wind tunnel report coming out very shortly, and it's just difficult. It's like 60 pages, and I'm trying to make sure everything's 100% accurate and pictures and tables and all the other stuff that goes with it.
So, having not prepped you for any of this, I am about to ask you a question, which may get edited out if the answer is I have no idea what you're talking about. But have you taken a look at the new GLTC upper level? I think it's GLTT something. Have you looked at that yet?
The 9-to-1 or whatever it
Yeah, the
is.
9-to-1. Yeah.
I did look at it. Yeah, and I just it's it looks like pretty fast cars. Looks cool.
Yeah. Do you think the balance metrics are appropriate yet, or you think they missed it on this one?
I
Because it's
don't know.
first year, so it's gonna.
Yeah, I love looking at rules, but when I looked at that, I was like, um, that's not my car, you know?
That's not what we race. It's not a
Yeah.
Yaris.
No, it's not a Yaris. It's not like a Busa swapped Miata. Although, I just it just seemed a little irrelevant to me because it also seemed like it was aimed at some GT cars that were crossing over, like Hyundai Cup cars or whatever. I don't
Yeah,
know.
former real race car.
Yeah, and that might be good for their brand or their series, whatever. But to me, that's just money that I don't have, and it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
should be fun to watch, and I live vicariously through this weekend was the CMP event, so I was watching that. And it's always fun to watch those guys.
I was watching it too. I thought it was great. They do such a fantastic job of coverage. I love what, how Grid Life is bringing so much passion to that. But again, it's become like so popular,
Yep.
and so it's expensive.
Yeah, I mean the price went up. I wouldn't say it's like pro expensive, but it's not cheap. And
Right.
the car cost to develop to the level that they're at now has gotten really, I'm not saying scary in terms of ooh, but scary in terms of, man, in order to be middle. Like my life goal was to, do the Thunderhill 25, do one lap of America and be mid pack in GLTC. Mid pack for where I set this goal, I don't think I would be DFL. I think I would be like 3 laps down and I wouldn't have had a mechanical. I mean, these guys are, and the girls, I mean, she's so fast right now.
Did you watch that pole position qualifying thing that they do for GLTC?
Yep.
I mean, there's like a second between second and 10th place,
Yep.
right? Covering
Yep.
them. It's 2/10 here, it's 1/10 here, it's half a tenth there.
Yep.
And then there's Eric Till, 1.5 seconds
Yep.
in front of
Erickson.
everyone. Everyone else behind him is mid pack as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. He, uh,
That's,
he, he can drive a little bit and he's got that car pretty dialed.
yeah, I don't know how that's possible, but um, it's incredible.
It is. Well, well, that's
Well,
that's one of the reasons why I said mid pack because I looked at what the top was and I was like, oh, you people are mutant aliens. You're not even aliens. You're just way out there. So
but Bill, if it doesn't happen, if it's not, like I thought about I was going to race GLTC too, and then I things have changed, and I'm not going to do it.
yeah.
Like I'm going to get into coaching and do other stuff. Hope to see you coaching, and maybe we'll just do something
Well,
else.
that was the other thing I was trying to work my way towards luring you to perhaps NJMP, all food, all sleeping arrangements. Come on down, share you love the Lemons vibe. We'll be there. Come on down.
I might, because there's a good chance I'll come down actually. Phil Sproger is going to be down there probably with that's the Miata that I took to the wind tunnel.
Hmm.
I'd love to see what he's doing. And I'm still like, I've got Lemon's blood running through me. This is how I started racing 14
Yep.
years ago. It's like, of course I want to do Lemons. I'd love if Bill, if I ever get back into racing, I will be like begging you. I want to go
Mhm.
race with you because I want to. I just can't. I don't think I can do it this year. I got to concentrate on other things.
No, I get it. I'm not trying to be, talking into something you don't want to do. I'm just trying to talk you into something that I think you do want to do, and we're
Oh,
more than willing to have you come in. So, you
yeah,
know, it's a pool. Come on in. The water's just fine.
I know it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
We'll get you.
Well, thank you
We'll
for that.
talk you.
Yeah.
No, no worries.
Mhm.
We almost had you last year, but then things fell apart. So,
Yeah. Also, I fell apart. Like I just realized. So I didn't tell you the story, but um, I was up at Pineview and I had a couple free passes and I invited my mechanic and his buddy with his E30 race car who just plays like second at Daytona and they're going to be at Watkins Glen and it's a well-sorted E30, right? And I got in their car at Pineview, which is of course a track I know very well, and drove it around like a shithead. Like, and I was just like, I suck. I'm a terrible driver. Like I got to the point where I was like, I can't even drive other people's cars. Like I just wanted to get back in my Veloster. And it just occurred to me that like I just don't have the concentration level or whatever it is necessary in order to race wheel to wheel with others and feel safe and confident. Like I just don't want to be a problem on track.
yeah, 100%. No, no, that's
Yeah.
why we share the same philosophical approach to it. That's why I
Yeah.
have no issues saying, "Come on in, race our car. Be
Yeah.
stupid like us. Dress up dumb like we do."
I know I'm fast and I know I'm safe and I know I have great awareness, but I also know that I got physical limitations like long term from Lyme disease like a couple of years in a row. And
Right.
I don't need to make anybody else subject to that sort of lack of attention or things that happen because of that. So
Well, you are
I
an
don't need to.
honorary member of the team. You can come and invite yourself to any race we're at. You can say, "Hey, I just want to come down and hang. Hey, I want to,
Yeah.
hang in the pit. Hey, I want to see if I can make you idiots any faster than you slowpokes are. Just invite yourself in. How about that? Open invitation.
That sounds great. Thank you.
No, no worries. And hopefully we will get together again. We still have some Arrow fun to do and
Hmm.
see how that goes. And we have things that we I think if we work with you enough, we can actually get to the point where we can't blame our cars anymore, and we just have to look in the mirror and say, yeah, yeah, it's official. We suck.
Nah, you can still blame the car.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks,
Indeed.
guys, for having me.
No worries. Thank you again.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
and we look forward to getting together again. We haven't seen you in a bit, and we live too close not to get together more often than we do.
I know it. I know it. We'll see you soon.
All right. Have a great night, sir.
Thanks, son. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.